Hey everyone, how are we all doing today? I hope you're doing well. This is the was supposed to be the final live chat for May, so we're going to back it up a day, pretend it's still May 31st. It's actually June 1st. We had some technical connectivity issues yesterday that I was ready to go live. The system wasn't. Obviously that has been fixed. We are up and running again, and today's live chat is going to be all about a brand new feature on the paulaschoice.com website called the Beautypedia Ingredient Checker. So if you have heard about this but haven't explored it yet, I'm going to try to walk you through it a little bit, explain some of the interesting features, and go into a bit more depth about how the team and I on the research and education side of the company, how we go about researching and writing about well over 1,800 different cosmetic ingredients. It's an interesting process. It's not a process that we take lightly. Probably the most important thing to share up front is that the information that we provide to you about any cosmetic ingredient is based on scientific research, peer-reviewed whenever possible, studies. Sometimes we will look to supplier information because from time to time there may not be a robust amount of research third party, but the supplier has actually done some very good studies. And whenever we come across instances like that, you can typically tell from the list of references that we post that we are referring to data from the supplier. So, sometimes, you can take that with a grain of salt, but we generally try to focus on the best studies, particularly comparative studies, where the ingredient is looked at along with at least one other ingredient or a combination of ingredients. But really what it comes down to is that what we share about these cosmetic ingredients is not meant to gender fear or concern per se, without justifiable cause. I don't want anyone to be scared of any ingredient or any particular skincare product. This is all about making sure that you have a much better understanding of what is in the skincare products, because that's primarily what the ingredient checker is looking at, is ingredients in skincare versus hair care or makeup, different cans of worms, so to speak. Just make sure that really to give you some additional knowledge so that you understand not just what those ingredients are doing in the product, what role they're playing, but are they really good for your skin? Are they kind of like there to serve the product, which in turn is serving your skin? But the ingredients themselves aren't necessarily going to hurt your skin. They're just kind of, neutral. Or are there ingredients, one or more, in your skincare products that shouldn't be there because they are a documented risk for skin? When there's evidence to back that up, as it applies to skin, as it applies to the amount of those ingredients in terms of the percentage, the concentration that is used in skincare products, and there's cause for concern, that's informative. It's fact-based, it's evidence-based. I don't view those types of things as being fear-mongering about ingredients. We've always been very upfront about the fact that, for example, there are good and bad natural ingredients, and there are good and bad synthetic ingredients. And whether the source is natural or synthetic or fermentation or biotechnology, all cosmetic ingredients are made up of chemicals. So there's never a good reason to fall into this mindset that some skincare products contain chemicals, as in bad, and other skincare products don't contain chemicals. There literally is no such thing as a chemical-free skincare product. What you want are the skincare products whose chemicals are proven to help the skin or either have no impact on it at all. They're there in the formula to help the formula, such as emulsification, stability, efficacy. For example, an ingredient that may help one of the actives in a formula get to where it needs to go in skin, penetrate. So that's just a kind of a long preamble to, I think, really just set the record straight on on what the ingredient checker's purpose is, and it's linked directly to our website's cosmetic ingredient dictionary, which is a free resource for anyone who's curious about skincare ingredients. It's now lives. If you go to the homepage of paulaschoice.com, it's under the drop down that says Beautypedia. So on another note, the Beautypedia ingredient checker is the next generation or the next evolution of the Beautypedia website. We definitely had some history, some equity with the Beautypedia name, and we didn't want to lose that, but it had come to the point where Beautypedia as it used to be, which was a online database of skincare and makeup reviews, often very in-depth reviews from, I think at one point we had over 300 brands, if not close to 300 brands reviewed on the site. It became its own beast, so to speak, and with all of the other projects that we have going on at Paula's Choice, with the increased emphasis and focus on Paula's Choice content, not product reviews, but skincare educational type content, things like the ingredient dictionary. We just did not have the hours or the people power to maintain that database, because as you can imagine, it isn't just adding new reviews at a regular clip and, keeping abreast of what's going on in the industry, who's got the latest serum and the eye cream, and whose mascara is the hottest this season, what are the latest sunscreens, and so on and so forth. We couldn't just let all of those existing reviews on the site just sit there and stagnate. And sadly, by and large, that is what ended up happening. We started focusing more on new reviews because we figured we needed to do something. We wanted to keep the site going, and I think eventually we realized we were sort of beating our heads against the wall, and that this wasn't a feasible model for us anymore. And so we thought, where would our time be better spent? And ultimately, and part of this too is the proliferation of social media influencers, particularly those on YouTube, that are actively reviewing all kinds of new products. And there are several that are doing a very good job of it and providing that type of in-depth review that we used to write about, but in the video medium. And for the most part, the ones that are doing it well, I'm fully on board with the fact that format for learning about a new moisturizer, or those beauty haul type videos that people do, where they're at Sephora or Ulta and they're bringing home 6, 7, 9, 12 new products to tell you about. Those are much more interactive and exciting and fun to watch than going to a website and reading 16 paragraphs about a $200 eye cream. So it was a style of review and a format of review that was kind of slowly being put to pasture anyway, due to the explosion of video content and these influencers who, I don't know how many of them were inspired by Paula's books and what eventually became Beautypedia in terms of being that cosmetics cop. I'd like to think some of them were, but they took the concept of product reviews, particularly for makeup, to the next level. And it wasn't where we wanted to go. So all of that is where we landed with Beautypedia, and taking advantage of our incredible cosmetic ingredient dictionary and parlaying that into this very cool, easy to use feature on our website, whether desktop or mobile. It's not an app, so don't go to the App Store for this, that allows you to, at a glance, get to know more about what's in any skincare product. There are many ingredients that have been added to the dictionary that are not officially rated yet. We have not gotten to those yet for an official evaluation and write-up. We are, however, paying very close attention when you use the feature, and I'll show you, I'll kind of give you a little mini demo in a sec. We're definitely paying attention to which ingredients are coming up a lot that we don't have a formal entry for yet, and then those get prioritized. But the team and I, for the last 18 months at least, have been going through and updating countless ingredients in the dictionary. The formatting has been completely redesigned so that whether you are a skimmer, you just want to quickly look at those bulleted points about an ingredient and then move on, or whether or not you want to start there and just kind of take in everything on the page, you're really doing more of a deep dive on a particular ingredient, you can do that as well. And then there's links out to different information, links out to Paula's Choice products that contain those ingredients. If you're reading about them, you're like, well, okay, what products contain this ingredient? What products contain bakuchiol or retinol or hyaluronic acid or vitamin C? You can quickly find those as well. And then you can also know, if you're looking at products from other brands that contain those ingredients, which ones are really worth your time and money, which ones are actually worth using to address your skin type or any of various skincare concerns. So, without further ado, so I just have our mobile site bookmarked on my smartphone. Just add that to the list. So I'll open that up. And as you can see, it opens up our mobile site. By the way, I can't believe I didn't lead with this, but this month, June 1st, separate from being Pride Month, yay, this month is the Paula's Choice Anniversary Month. So 28 years ago today, in 1995, Paula's Choice debuted on the internet. Back when I think it's safe to say most consumers didn't know what the internet really was, or what they could do with it, or how it would benefit them. And many of them certainly weren't comfortable shopping online. And now you think back to that time and you're like, look at how people shop today. Most of us are shopping online, often daily. And, would you want to go back to the way it used to be? I mean, there is some nostalgia from like being able to wander. I grew up in the mall era, where the mall was the destination. It was a social destination. It was a shopping destination. It was an entertainment destination. The mall had it all. And now, that's not really representative of today's shopping mall in most cities. I think some of them are struggling, and some of them are innovating and finding new ways to draw people in. But for certain, we're not shopping in brick and mortar stores the way we used to when online shopping wasn't an option or was so new that everyone was just kind of like, I don't know. So here we are on the mobile site, and then you can tap the menu, and then you'll get to the part that says Beautypedia, and then from there you tap on Ingredient Checker. Okay, there are two ways you can utilize the Ingredient Checker when you have an ingredient list in question. If you have it open on your tablet or your desktop, laptop, you can go to an ingredient list online, like let's say you wanted to look at the ingredients in Estee Lauder's Advanced Night Repair. So you could go to their website, copy the list of ingredients, and then paste it into the box. It's very clear what box you use on the Beautypedia Ingredient Checker. And then you can do that, or if you have the product at home, this is what I'm going to do. And this is our 20% niacinamide. I am going to use a photo of the ingredient lists. So you tap use photo, and if you have an iPhone at least, I think it works very, very similarly on Android devices. You can choose photo library. So like, let's say you were at the drugstore, you saw a new CeraVe product, you took a picture of the ingredient list and stored it in your photo library for later use. In that case, you tap photo library and find that image. But I don't have a saved image of this product that I'm curious about. So I'm going to take a photo, which brings up the camera feature. And then what you want to do with your camera is, as much as possible, focus in on the ingredient list to the exclusion of other text. Okay. Then I'm going to choose Use Photo, and then you'll get the ability to crop, because I got some extra text in here that I did not want. So I'm going to move that down a little bit. And then you can tap My Product Comes in a Jar, and that'll bring up some information about why jar packaging can be a problem for certain types of products. I'm not going to do that because I know I've got the product right here, not a jar. So I will tap Analyze. And it's thinking, and then it starts spinning like that. Okay. I did not crop the image as good as I should have, but for example purposes, this still works. So now I'm on my results. So it said that they found 12 out of the 22, the site found 12 out of the 22 ingredients that I listed, but I think some ingredients got cut off. 4 best, 4 rated best, 8 rated good, 0 rated average, bad, or worst. Yay. 10 are unknown and 0 are not rated. And then you can go down and you can see the various ones. So again, some of the cropping, so this got a little bit messed up because I was not very good at cropping. But you can see like there's the couple of plant extracts in here that are rated best, and then you can tap to go to the formal entry for that ingredient and read more about it. And then you'll see products with Camellia japonica flower extract. What do you know? The clinical niacinamide 20% treatment. There is our list of references. And then you can just hit the X to close out of that and go back and look at the other ingredients. But you can very much see at a glance what the ingredients in your product are and how they rate. You can also share this ingredient list analysis with a friend or save for later. You can just copy the link and then send it. That's a cool feature. And you can also sort. So you can filter and sort ingredients by the ingredient list in its entirety, which is the default. Best to worst, worst to best, the benefits or the functions of the ingredient. So you can see I changed the tab. I tapped on benefits. I can see which ingredients are categorized as anti-aging, which are for hydration, oil control, soothing, and so on. And then if I go back and I choose function, I can see which ingredients in this formula are absorbent, which are antioxidant, chelating agent, which is what the sodium phytate's doing in there, and so on and so forth. Emollient, emulsifier, humectant, occlusive, plant extract, preservative, solvents, texture enhancer. So again, really cool. Very easy to use from your phone, or I kind of like it better from the laptop or desktop. I think partly that's because I'm used to looking at ingredient lists for research purposes and whatnot on my large monitor, but your mileage will vary. I did want to briefly discuss what the 5 different ratings mean. So when an ingredient is rated best, those we consider outstanding ingredients with true benefits, research established benefits for skin. Often there are several benefits attributable to a single ingredient, niacinamide being a great example because it is an antioxidant. It has soothing properties. It has dark spot fading properties. It improves uneven skin tone. It has pore refining properties. Anti-red. I mean, it's just niacinamide is probably bad example because there's so many benefits it brings, but let's say something like glycerin, which is a humectant and also helps to strengthen skin's barrier. Ingredients rated best also have an impressive amount of research, independent research attesting to its benefit for skin. The next step down from that, because best is our top rating, can't get better than the best, is good. And those include non-irritating, effective ingredients. They may not quite be as beneficial as ingredients that are rated best, but they're often necessary to improve a formula's efficacy, stability, or, as I mentioned earlier, have a positive impact on an ingredient penetration. So let's take the glycol ingredient methylpropanediol, which is one of the ingredients in our 2% BHA liquid. That ingredient is there not only for its humectant and solvent properties, but also to help the salicylic acid penetrate further into the pores. The ratio of that glycol to the water and the way it's combined with the salicylic acid is one of the unique aspects that makes that product so special and so globally beloved by so many people. You know, we actually, just as a quick side note about that product, because this is really good news. In 2022, for the entirety of that year, the Skin Perfecting 2% BHA liquid was the best-selling leave-on exfoliant in the prestige market. What? I mean, like, we knew it was a popular product on our website, you know, and all of our global sites, but I had no idea that from a total volume as a number of units sold perspective, that it had done so well. And a big part of that is from Sephora. Another big part of that is from Amazon. But of course, an overarching part of it is how many of you have gone out and not only given the product a try, but have actively sung its praises to other people and gotten them turned on to Paula's Choice as a result. So thank you. Back to our regularly scheduled program. The next rating is average. Average, those ingredients, they may have some aesthetic, stability, or other issues that don't make them bad ingredients per se, or irritating ingredients, but there's some drawbacks that may limit average rated ingredients' usefulness. But sometimes it's just kind of a no-frills, ho-hum ingredient that, or an ingredient that might be a bit up and coming, but doesn't have a lot of solid research behind it yet. So there are definitely some ingredients in the dictionary, and of course you'll come across them using the Beautypedia ingredient checker, that have the average rating, but that may change in the future. That is something that we are always open to whenever new research is brought to our attention, or perhaps an older study or two that we may have missed. We're always willing to take a look at those sources and reevaluate not only a product's rating in the ingredient dictionary, but also if it's about a skincare topic that we've written about, you know, reevaluate what we've written. We want our content to evolve, and we love that when you guys bring that information to our attention and giving us the ability to act on it. Because again, with the amount of research out there, you know, there's bound to be some things that we may miss from time to time. I always aim to look at the most current research, because often what you'll come across in more, particularly if you are looking at an overview of the research, is those will contain information that has been gleaned over the past 20-25 years. So you don't need to go back in that sense and say, oh, what was being said about this in the late 90s? It's part of that overview. And you know, you can look at their references and find all of the information and when it was originally published and why it fed into this overview. So I love that type of stuff. The next rating is bad. We have a bad and we have a worst. So bad means there's a likelihood of irritation. and that risk of irritation is going to increase when that bad rated ingredient is combined with other bad rated or worst rated ingredients. So a bad rated ingredient may offer some benefits to skin. For example, limonene, which is a fragrance chemical that's present in many different citrus fruits and often listed on its own because it is part of the EU's list of fragrance allergens that have to be declared. That's a whole other story. But limonene has antioxidant ability, absolutely, which is great for skin. Great for anti-pollution, great for protection from various types of free radicals that can hinder skin's appearance. However, we can't ignore the fact that limonene is also sensitizing to skin. It has phototoxic properties, which means if you have enough limonene, for example, on your skin, and it isn't protected from sunlight, you could get what's called a phototoxic reaction, which, depending on how your skin reacts, can be anything from a red rashy spot to a concentrated area of hyperpigmentation. New dark spots from going in the sun with an ingredient like that. We also know from research that limonene is, when it oxidizes, it becomes a pro-oxidant. So upon exposure to air, the chemical reaction that occurs causes the limonene to start breaking down and become an oxidant as opposed to an antioxidant. So that's just a good example of an ingredient that has mixed research. You can certainly point to studies saying it has some good properties for skin, but the preponderance of research is showing a net negative. And given that there are many ingredients out there, including many natural ingredients, that have not only better safety profiles, but also the preponderance of research on their topical use is positive, why not look for products with those ingredients instead and leave the questionable ones or the controversial ones behind? So that's bad, the rating. And then the last one is worse. The worst ingredients are those proven to cause not only irritation, but to trigger inflammation, to lead to dryness, redness. Any ingredient in this category is definitely one that we strongly recommend that you avoid, especially when it is used in high concentrations with other irritating ingredients. So denatured alcohol is a very good and very common example of that because the research is so clear on how problematic that can be for skin, how it eats away at barrier components. The skin needs to stay healthy and hydrated. There are aesthetic pluses to using denatured alcohol in certain formulas, such as a very quick dry time and a nice, depending on the formula, a non-greasy feel. There's nuances, though. There's nuances because in some products, when the amount of denatured alcohol is low, because the ingredients in a product are supposed to be listed in descending order of concentration. There are some over-the-counter, in the US, over-the-counter drug products, such as your sunscreens, your anti-acne products, your skin lightening products, that the inactive, they separate the active and the inactive ingredient lists. By the way, actually, that's a good reminder to tell you that if you're looking at product artwork and they have that drug facts label where the actives are up here and the inactives are down here, at least as of now, you need to take 2 photos and feed that into the ingredient checker. It's because you'll need to photograph the list of actives and then you'll need to crop and photograph the list of inactive ingredients. In some cases, though, if you can find that ingredient list on a product's web page, they'll have everything listed all together. They won't follow, because it's a requirement in the US to follow drug facts labeling on the product packaging, but you don't have to show it the exact same way using that template on a web page. So just a little hint there, you may want to check that instead if it's maybe a bit less frustrating. What was I saying? We talked about worst. We talked about all the ratings. Nuances. Alcohol. So there's a big difference in a product being bad for skin because its amount of denatured alcohol is very high. Like it's the first, second, third, or even the fourth ingredient. And then the other ingredients that it's paired with, and particularly those that follow, meaning that they are present in a lower concentration than the denatured alcohol, what types of ingredients are they? If they're absorbent, drying, or other types of irritating ingredients combined with that denatured alcohol, that's an even worse situation for your skin. If the ingredients that follow are humectants or emollients, they have some moisturizing qualities to skin, it doesn't completely offset what the amount of denatured alcohol will do to skin, but it helps mitigate that damage to a certain degree. Even so, I think there are better products out there that, you know, just when alcohol is up toward the denatured type, not the fatty alcohol type like your cetyl, sterol, and bihenyl alcohols. Those are non-drying. Those are fine for skin. They do not irritate it. I'm talking about the ethanol type alcohols, like your denatured alcohol or SD or isopropyl alcohol. When you're seeing those towards the top third of the ingredient list, particularly if when you're testing the product you get that whiff of alcohol, I'd be leery about that. If it's towards the very bottom of an ingredient list and pretty much everything else that precedes it is good for skin, particularly in regard to moisturizing or antioxidant ability, I wouldn't worry about it so much, particularly if that is the only thing about the product that's making you raise an eyebrow. But otherwise you're like, I really think I could like this. Then go for it. Okay, I'm off the page here. There's a handful of questions, which I will get to, promise. I just wanted to go over a few other things. What can you tell from a product's ingredient list? Well, I can absolutely give you insights into potential benefits and the overall effectiveness of the formula. You can absolutely determine the presence or absence of skin irritants, including sneaky forms of fragrance. There are certain ingredients like ethylene brassylate, like methyl dihydrojasminate, which may not resonate upon first glance as being fragrance, but that is exactly what they're there for. If you look at the ingredient data, whether from supplier or third-party studies, and you read about why that ingredient is used in cosmetics, it's a fragrance. On the other hand, there are certain ingredients like phenoxyethanol, which is a preservative that's widely used, that its main reason for being used in any cosmetic is going to be for its broad spectrum preservative ability. It's just got a nice wide range of activity. What that means is that you don't need to pair phenoxyethanol with 3 or 4 other preservatives, which potentially ups the risk of sensitization. However, in its natural state, phenoxyethanol has kind of a subtle rose-like smell. And from time to time, that may get imparted, depending on how much is used, to a formula. At Paula's Choice, of course, we use phenoxyethanol because it's one of the best available preservatives with that broad spectrum activity. The amounts that we use and the glycols that we combine it with, I've never detected that scent. But a secondary characteristic of phenoxyethanol, not a characteristic, a reported function is fragrance. It's I think a lot of that comes down to the more broad definition of fragrance. What matters to us is that the primary benefit of those types of ingredients should not be fragrance. It should have some other useful purpose for skin. And then in terms of how we use them, we want to make sure that we are not including them at a level that lends a detectable scent, because that could potentially put skin at risk for irritation. Kind of a long explanation there, but I wanted to make sure I was being very clear. How should an ingredient list look? Like, why are ingredients ordered in a certain way? Typically, as I mentioned, they're listed in order of descending concentration. For some over-the-counter drug fact labeled products in the United States, the inactive ingredients are listed in alphabetical order. I'm glad to see a lot of OTC drug products in the States getting away from that, because I never thought it was particularly helpful, and I never understood why that was the recommendation. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was always a recommendation, not a requirement. Because I would see some brands doing it that way alphabetically, and some brands doing it in what had to be descending order. But it's very easy to mislead that way, because it can look like certain ingredients are being used at a much higher level than they really are. But ultimately, when they're in alphabetical order, you really can't tell what the rough percentage may be, how predominant they are in a formula. So it's just, ultimately, it's just not the most accurate. Some people have asked, do skincare companies have to list all of the ingredients in their skincare products? And the answer, at least per United States FDA regulations, it's the same way in Australia and the EU, Health Canada. You do need to disclose all of the ingredients in your products. You cannot keep, if there's like 2 or 3 that you consider proprietary or whatever, you still have to disclose what they are. The 2 exceptions are fragrance, because the fragrance and fragrance blends are considered trade secret, and flavor. So if you have, for example, a lip gloss, like I always think of the Bonnie Bell lip smackers, like root beer flavor and Coca-Cola and all that. For the root beer flavor, you don't have to list every ingredient that creates that flavor. You just have to list flavor. So, and then for now, we are not looking closely at ingredients in hair care or makeup products. However, there's a lot of carryover. A lot of ingredients that end up in skincare are also used to some degree or another in hair care. There are some more unique hair care ingredients, certain film forming agents that would be used in styling products, certain waxes that would be used in pomades, and in some cases hair masks or conditioners. Certain cleansing agents that you would be more likely to come across in a shampoo than you would a facial cleanser or a body wash. And then for makeup, there's this would mostly be in the realm of like information on certain pigments that are used in color cosmetics. What else? That's other than pigments and maybe some emulsifiers that are used primarily because they help keep pigments emulsified or blended together, such as in a liquid foundation, so that every time you use it, it doesn't separate. You're not shaking it vigorously before each use. Yeah, I think that would be it. But you will find a lot of crossover too. So I think once you start to explore the ingredient checker and take that more detailed look, you're going to find that many of the ingredients that you are aware of or that you come across most often in products are already covered, and know that we are looking out for the ones that are not reviewed yet, but then those will get added to our list. So that is the ingredient checker. There is if you go to either the mobile site or our desktop site, you pop over to that Beautypedia section, there is a roughly 3-minute tutorial video that's very helpful. You don't have to rewind this chat and listen to everything I said. You can just listen to the very soothing voice of my colleague Deborah Kilgore explaining the process to you. But the most important takeaway message is that you now have this very powerful tool to give you more control and a greater understanding of what is in the skincare products you're considering. If you have one or more products that don't come up so hot. They've got one or more worst or bad rated ingredients in there, and those ingredients are like towards the top of the list, and you're thinking, okay, got to replace my product. You can use the Beautypedia ingredient checker to find other products that rated better, and then you can filter those by your skin type and skin concern. So for example, if you're looking at a treatment product like a firming serum, you can drill down and get Paula's Choice product recommendations for those for that need, and know that the ingredients in those products are going to be at worst average rated, but the majority of them are going to be rated good or best. And that might seem a little conflict of interesty. However, it really is based on we don't have a window into how other brands are formulating their products. We know what we're doing, and we're looking at all of the external research on the ingredients that we use. So the recommendation for Paula's Choice as an alternative is based on how confident we are in our own formulas. But you don't want to use that feature to find a better rated product from the Paula's Choice line. You can certainly continue using the ingredient checker with products from any other brand in that category you're considering. So let's go back to firming serum and say, okay, product from brand X, that's kind of a no-go. What about this product from brand Y? I've heard good things about that too, and it's in the same price range. Because you can do this in the store. You can do this at Ulta or Sephora or Nordstrom or Macy's or wherever. As long as you've got that ingredient list to take a photo of, you can get that analysis on the spot. Well, you need a Wi-Fi connection too, of course, but very few places in the modern world that it's difficult to come by that. So, all right, let me get to the handful of questions we have here, starting with Claudia MM. It says, Bryan thought about trying the new oil SPF. Yes, our invisible oil that just launched for anniversary. But usually avobenzone irritates my eyes. Do you think the amount of avobenzone in the oil is high enough to cause the same irritation? I would say if you are worried about the product running into your eyes and the avobenzone stinging, it may be one to avoid applying in this area, and potentially avoid altogether if you know you have that sensitivity to avobenzone. The other option is if you decide to try this, because it really does feel marvelous. Fun product to work on, and definitely a brand new format for us. The other option as an alternative is to only wear this invisible sunscreen oil with the avobenzone when you are reasonably confident or know for sure that you will not be perspiring. Because putting this product on your face, even as it warms up to your body temperature, it's just not going to get all runny and get into your eyes unless it has some sort of a carrier, i.e. sweat, that it's going to mix with it and then potentially drip into the eye. So it's not, if you said my skin, my facial skin is sensitive to avobenzone, I know this for a fact, I've tried and tested several, okay, not the sunscreen for you. But if it's an issue of just worrying about it getting in your eyes, and you know you're not going to be perspiring, then I think it should be fine. And as with any SPF, stop application at the orbital bone area, because what is applied to that area is going to migrate. And this is another good call out or reminder to wear sunglasses when you're outside, because not only because it can be tricky and ill-advised to put sunscreen so close to the eye itself, and for example, you wouldn't want to put sunscreen on your eyelid. You want to protect your eyes too from UV light. And that's where sunglasses, at least the kind that are UV rated, and luckily most are these days, that's where they come in to play and work with your facial SPF to protect you. Aphrodite, hello Bryan. Could I use the PC multipeptide serum before a cream with copper peptides? Yes, none of the peptides are known to complex or interact with copper peptides. And thank you for that reminder, because I'm sitting here, again, I should have mentioned this. I meant to mention this at the top of the show. I have the June issue of Real Simple magazine, which I subscribe to. And they did their beauty awards. And the Pro Collagen Multi-Peptide Booster won Best Serum. Very impressive. We're honored. This is a new product. And they wrote that this formula can smooth lines in 15 minutes and reduce wrinkles in about 4 weeks. The key ingredient, peptides, to improve the tone of your skin and make it appear tighter. I definitely noticed the plumping effect, was the editorial production director, her feedback. So thank you, Real Simple. That product is a personal favorite of mine. I use it every day. Danny says, hi, Brian. I love the PC lip gloss with SPF 40. I just got my friend Kristen hooked on that, and she loves it too. She's just like, where has this been? Why haven't you told me about this? So she was kind of kicking me a little bit, but, you know, I'm like, look, hey, you got to let me know you need these things. I'm not running around saying put sunscreen on your lips. Okay, what was your question? I love the PC lip gloss with SPF 40. Can I use a lip liner or lipstick underneath, or will that mess up the sun protection? It's fine to put line and fill in your lips with a liner, or put on lipstick and then top it with the gloss. The concern would be putting on the lip gloss and then putting another non-SPF product on, whatever that lip product may be, over it. So the general rule is that SPF layer, you want that on last. So go ahead and line and fill in your lips. I actually think that approach of using a liner instead of putting lipstick on and then the gloss over it, I think that's going to give the gloss more staying power, because lipsticks tend to be highly emollient. They tend to be more slippery. The gloss has its own slippery texture, so the two kind of, you know, they glide together, but I think the lip gloss, we haven't actually tested this to confirm, this is just my theory, but the lip gloss is going to rub off or come off faster than it would if you put it on over lined lips and skipped a lipstick. So you're using the liner to shape your mouth. You're also using the liner to fill in and give your lips some heightened color. And then the sheer pink color of the gloss with the SPF is going to complement that. And Danny said, I've noticed that a lot of sunscreens... Oh, wait, I think I skipped one. HD, Brian, you and your team are the sole reason that people routinely assume I am at least 10 years younger than my true age. Thank you. No clue why people continue buying products from other brands. Oh, so sweet. But just in fairness, there are good products out there from other brands. So as huge of a fan as I am of Paula's Choice, it would be silly of us to not acknowledge that other brands are doing great products too. Maybe not as many great products, but they're doing some great products. And Danny, again, I've noticed that a lot of sunscreens, even from usually decent brands, not PC, of course, contain denatured alcohol. A lot of them do, yes, particularly the spray-on formulas, again, because that it's a volatile ingredient and it's going to evaporate quickly. So you get those UV filters deposited on skin. The alcohol lets you create a nice light mist. The alcohol evaporates, and then the UV filters stay in place. Unfortunately, the amount of alcohol used in a lot of the spray-on sunscreens is upwards of like 65 to 70%. So, even though it evaporates quickly when used in such a high amount, it's fairly instantaneous damage and irritation to skin. If it's a situation where your choice is, do I use a spray sunscreen with alcohol or do I forego sunscreen altogether, use the sunscreen. I mean, but just don't make a habit of using sunscreens that contain a high amount of alcohol. The one area, though, actually, now that I think of it, where those could be helpful is if you want to apply it to the part in your hair. If you're not wearing a hat and you're worried, particularly if you have thinner hair, that the scalp that's getting exposed due to the part in your hair may get burned, take an alcohol-based spray-on sunscreen and spray that part. That, I'm not nuts about putting alcohol on your scalp, but it's better than getting a sunburn because damn, those can hurt. But the advantage is, compared to like rubbing a sunscreen lotion or cream in that area, is that your hair isn't going to look or feel super greasy. Depending on the UV filters, you may notice a bit of oiliness on the hair, but it definitely will be less than if you had tried to massage in a sunscreen, cream, or lotion. Will Paula's Choice make a water-resistant sunscreen? We do have one right now, the Extra Care Non-Greasy Sunscreen, which is our sole body SPF, is water-resistant. But we haven't tested, or have we tested? I think there's the mineral ones are pretty tenacious, like the Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense. Like that stuff just stays on. But we haven't done the official water-resistant test, so we cannot legally make that claim. But yes, as I mentioned in previous chats, we're always evaluating our sun care collection, particularly if and when we expand our options for body SPF. I think it's just a given that they'll be water-resistant because most people who are using such products at some point or another are going to be swimming. So, and that's absolutely an important attribute. I love the ingredient checker and I've been using since the Beautypedia website days, years and years ago. I used to look up ingredients one at a time, loving the copy paste I can do now. Yeah, it's so much more efficient. It is so much more efficient. Oh, there's so much speculation on mixing sunscreens. Example, using one, say, mineral for under eyes and, say, chemical one for all over face. So what is safe to do? Can it be done without compromising the SPF? That's a good question, and the safest response is that you should stick with, if you're going to use more than one sunscreen, stick with the same type of UV filters in each. It is possible that, so we know, for example, both titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, those are the two mineral UV filters, are used in other sunscreens that are what we call a hybrid, meaning that the UV filters, there's at least one of the mineral filters and then one of the so-called chemical or synthetic filters like octinoxate, oxybenzone, octisalate. So we know that those play well together, but there are certain formulary nuances and mixing techniques that labs and chemists and contract manufacturers who make these products in bulk can do to ensure that everything stays homogenized and that there aren't any stability issues that crop up that could impact the SPF. When you've got a mineral sunscreen from Paula's Choice, for example, and a one with synthetic UV filters from Banana Boat, just to name a sunscreen brand, and you're thinking of combining them, you can't be sure of what might happen in terms of SPF stability and degradation. It's not going to cause an explosion. It's not going to cause your face to fall off. It's really about, is the sun protection factor going to be impacted by this? And the answer is you just don't know. When you are using 2 or 3 different sunscreens, in one area that all have the same type of filters, it's just a sure bet that they're all going to play well together. So that's the best I can tell you in that regard. Seth says, I remember one chat you mentioned PC was working on a European filter sunscreen. Is this still in the works? I love European filters. It is, Seth, and in fact it just launched. You can find it on the Paula's Choice EU website. It is the Advanced Sun Protection SPF 50. Really luscious lotion texture. We really worked hard to create a sunscreen that first and foremost people would want to use and look forward to applying. It is, as I mentioned, SPF 50. It has the PA++++, indicating very high UVA protection, and I think there are 6 filters in there altogether, and I think all but one of them all but one of them are EU, well, they're all EU approved All but one of them are EU exclusive. So unfortunately, because of regulations, which I don't really agree with about these filters, we need to get them approved here. We can't sell the sunscreen in the North American market, but it is for sale in the European market, so check it out. HD says, I missed the sassiness in some of the reviews on the old Beautypedia site. Those coddly reviews had me in stitches. Oh, we had so much fun writing those. There were times, particularly on deadline, where Paula and I were in adjoining office. Well, our offices were right next to each other, and we would just be laughing late at night writing, just because you get to that point where we have similar senses of humor that come through in our writing, and part of our use of humor in some of those past reviews was because you get bored. You know, when you're writing, literally sitting down and writing about hundreds of products, and you know, this is a moisturizer, and there's a lot of sameness in the industry, maybe less so now than there was back when we were actively writing the books, which I appreciate. I like the diversity. But yeah, so you would, particularly when we were writing about products that just had preposterous claims, they were ridiculously priced, you know, $200 for something that's mostly water, glycerin, silicone, an emulsifier, and fragrance in a jar with claims that it's a facelift and works like this, and you know, it's gonna retighten and refasten sagging contours. If it actually contained ingredients that could have an impact in that regard, different story. But so it was sort of like the humor was to kind of offset some of the pissy indignation we would sometimes feel because people were getting suckered. They were getting taken advantage of, spending their hard-earned money on a product that couldn't possibly work the way the company was telling you it could. I'm not saying that this was coddly. I don't remember specifically what we wrote about coddly, but they are definitely one of the brands that are on the pricier side for what you get. All right. Will Space NK carry the EU SPF they ship to the US? I'm not sure. The best thing to do is to contact our United Kingdom team, Paula's Choice UK, and get their feedback on, because I don't have a window into those logistics. And it's also possible, the other aspect of that I don't have a window to is retailers like Space NK that agree to sell Paula's Choice products. They typically, and Sephora is the same way, they get to choose what they offer on their websites and in their stores. We can't go to them and say, no, you have to sell everything, because that would be kind of a weird way to do business based on the retail models of those stores. I mean, they don't sell everything from every brand they carry. They want the brand's best and brightest, so to speak. So Space NK may want this product. I would think they would, but I don't know off the top of my head. Yes, so yeah, guys, go check out the EU website. The sunscreen's right there. I'd love for you to try it. I need to get some of it, but they're not even giving... I got prototypes, but I can't get the finished formula in the actual packaging. Isn't that silly? Okay. What's the difference between the peptide and the other older peptide booster I was using? It's the new one is more tightly focused. The original, which I was also a big fan of, was a very good formula. We wanted to take advantage. The research on peptides as they pertain to skin and what suppliers are offering these days improved considerably from the time the original was launched, I think in mid-2018, to when this new one launched earlier in 2023, I believe in April. Was it April or March? I'll have to check. There was an opportunity for us to make a more focused product that we wanted to do something that really targets skin's underlying architecture. That area help influence and support an area in skin known as a dermal epidermal junction. So it is more about foundational firming, and it has this new technology from one of the peptides that gives you a really nice, relatively quick, like within 15 minutes, line smoothing effect. So just some really exciting ingredients and technology that we wanted to take advantage of. So On that note, and we are just at the hour. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and for those of you watching this later on, please, I hope this has been helpful for you and that you will check out the Beautypedia ingredient checker and realize that this is just such a cool tool to keep you empowered to share the knowledge that we work so hard to provide across different areas of our website. And as usual, I'll be back next month, well, which is now officially this month. Pretend it's still May 31st, though, with an all-new live chat, and I look forward to talking with you then. Take care.